In a beautiful village of Aimba, a well-known ancient kingdom somewhere in Africa, there lived joyful and vibrant villagers, who were widely known for their happy lifestyle. The people of Aimba were free-spirited people who loved to have fun no matter the circumstance, and they lived a stress-free life. In fact, they were nicknamed the Happy People by the neighboring villages. Their talented drummers would always play their drums in the streets of Aimba village at the slightest announcement of any good news in the community, and the happy villagers would often dance to the sound of the African drums as they pleased. At night under the moonlight, the young ones made it a norm and always played and danced in high spirit happily together. And they all lived in peace and unity, loving and caring for each other. But on one fateful day, the narrative changed entirely. A total silence covered the entire village of Aimba, which had never happened or witnessed before. What the happy people of Aimba witnessed was so horrifying that no one amongst them could give a definite answer or solution to. It was totally a strange experience ever to occur in the history of Aimba village. In the early hours of the morning on that fateful day, the people of Aimba gradually woke up to a new day as usual. Everyone was hoping to wake up to the usual happy, lively and vibrant early morning sounds and activities of the lovely people of Aimba village. But on that very day the story was entirely different, as they all woke up confused and sad without clear answers to why the strange occurrence in the land. Amongst the confused, sad and worried villagers was their young spiritual leader named Nwagbara. He was a strong and dedicated young man chosen by the gods of the land to be the eyes and the mouthpiece of the gods in the land of Aimba. And he was highly respected, and the villagers depended on his spiritual directions and guidelines to face their daily challenges. Nwagbara was the son of a great dibia, a fearless and powerful native doctor who did great wonders during his time in Aimba before finally joining his ancestors at a very old age. Nwagbara, despite being young, was in fact a great and well-respected seer in the land of Aimba village and other neighboring communities. He always provided solution to his people whenever he was consulted. But on that fateful day Nwagbara woke up like every other person in the land of Aimba to start the day as usual, but he had a strange feeling of heaviness in the air that he could not get down from his bed easily. As he stepped out of his house, he looked deep into the sky and noticed that something was terribly wrong in the land of Aimba, but he could not place his finger on what the matter was immediately. Then Nwagbara quickly entered his chamber and performed his daily morning ritual routine. He did his morning devotion, appeasing his ancestors and the gods of the land as required. As he came out of his chamber, suddenly within a very short period of time the villagers began to troop into his compound. To his greatest surprise, all the villagers who had been full of life the day before now looked different. They all looked frail and very old beyond their ages. They were all gathering in his compound for a common reason, which was to seek help, but Nwagbara was as confused as they were and could not offer any help at that very moment. To his amazement, men who were very strong the previous day all of a sudden could no longer walk upright. They all walked with walking sticks. Beautiful women who had been vibrant and strong not long ago were now weak and very old. The strong and vibrant youth turned to old people who could not even stand without a walking stick. The situation was too much for a single person to handle. Nwagbara was troubled on the sight of his once happy and vibrant people, and he was totally overwhelmed by what he saw. As they screamed his name on top of their voices demanding for spiritual help from him, Nwagbara told them to be calm, and he promised to provide solution to their problems even when he knew he had no instant solution for them. Then he told them to give him some time to come up with answers, and he quickly walked away. He was rushing to the oldest elder in Aimba village to seek guidance. On his way to seek guidance, his heart sank when he saw his childhood best friend, a beautiful young girl named Amarachi, who used to be a very strong and high-spirited dancer, but that day she was struggling to walk like every other person in Umundu. Then Amarachi asked Nwagbara what was going on in the land. She said, "Nwagbara, my friend and the great seer of our time, what is happening to us?" Amarachi's voice trembled with fear. "As you can see, we are aging so quickly. Look at me, my friend. Yesterday I was young and very beautiful, and see me today, I can barely move." Nwagbara was filled with fear and confusion. He could not give a straight answer to Amarachi, but he promised her that he would fix the problem. At that moment he knew he had to find out what was happening and save his people before it became too late. But the question was, where would he start from? As a matter of fact, It was obvious that everybody in Aimba was afflicted with the strange old age illness except Nwagbara. At that point Nwagbara, who was desperate for answers, left Amarachi in a hurry and went straight to the hut of the oldest elder, a very aged old woman named Mama Ukwu. She had seen many things in her long life and was respected for her wisdom. But when Nwagbara arrived at her hut, he found Mama Ukwu just looking the same way she had been without being affected with the same affliction. Then he said to her, "Mama Ukwu, what is happening to us? Why are our people aging so quickly? And why were you and I not afflicted?" Mama Ukwu shook her head slowly and responded, "I do not know, my son Nwagbara. This is unlike anything I have ever seen in my entire life. The answers are with the gods. We desperately need to seek help from the gods of our land. Nwagbara, you should help the people of Aimba to find solution to this illness as soon as possible before we are all wiped out." Determined to find a solution, Nwagbara left Mama Ukwu's hut and returned to his hut. In a hurry, he entered his consultation chamber once again and performed some simple rituals seeking direction from the ancestors. Then the ancestors instructed him to go to the oldest tree in the land of Aimba known as Ugwu Osisinmore, the sacred tree, and perform some rituals and sacrifice. He was told that if the ritual went well, the gods will reveal to him the cause of the sudden sickness and direct him on how to go about it and bring an end to the affliction. Upon hearing from the ancestors, Nwagbara quickly took the necessary items and ran straight to the sacred Ugwu Osisinmore, the sacred tree. It was a place where the seers, both small and mighty, often talked to the spirits of their forefathers and the gods of the land on special events. On reaching there, Nwagbara lit up a ceremonial fire. He did some incantations while holding a chick and started calling upon the spirits and the gods of the land of Aimba. He asked them to reveal the source of the curse that came upon Aimba and provide immediate solution. As the flames and the smoke rose up, Nwagbara suddenly passed out and fell into trance. Thereafter, he found himself sitting next to his late father. His father told him that to get solution to the problem that brought him over to the land of the dead, that he should journey further and meet with Igwe, the god of sky. After that, Nwagbara's father disappeared and he mysteriously found himself standing beside a tree in an unknown and unrecognized environment. As he lifted his head up, to his greatest surprise, he saw the face of the most feared Igwe, the god of sky. Nwagbara spoke immediately, "Igwe, my people are suffering. We woke up today to a strange illness upon everyone in the land of Aimba, except Mama Ukwu and I. My people are aging rapidly and we do not know why. Please, help us." Igwe's voice echoed loud from up the sky. "Nwagbara, your people have disturbed the ancient covenant of the sands of time." Nwagbara responded, "Igwe, I do not understand. Please explain to me what this covenant of the sands of time is and how was it disturbed by my people." Then Igwe narrated, "Long ago, before your great-grandfather was born, there was a powerful witch who reigned majestically and was in possession of the sands of time, which had the power of long life during her reign. She eventually hid the sands of time somewhere in Aimba village for the fear of it entering the wrong hand. She knew that if misused it would cause great harm to the people of Aimba and could wipe them out from the surface of the earth. Knowing the kind of powers the sands of time possessed, she was overprotective of it and she hid it where nobody could find it. But now, it happened that someone has disturbed the sands of time where it was hidden, which brought the curse upon your people." Igwe explained. Nwagbara became afraid and his heart was beating very fast as he asked, "Now what can I do to save my people?" Igwe replied, "You must find the hourglass containing the sands of time and return it to the community sacred well that was its original resting place. Only then will the curse be lifted. Go back now to the land of Aimba. Prepare yourself and venture into the evil forest. You will face trials but remain focused and you will finally find the sands of time." At that moment Nwagbara knew he had to return back to Aimba in order to find the sands of time and reverse the curse before it was too late. Suddenly he woke up from his trance, surprised and confused. As he regained back his full consciousness, he ran to his hut, gathered his belongings including his father's fortified staff and a bag containing protective charms and other items, and set off to the evil forest as directed by Igwe, the sky god. It was a difficult, long and dangerous journey, but Nwagbara was determined to save his people no matter the cost. As he reached the evil forest, it was thick with overgrown grasses and trees and was full of strange sounds. Nwagbara had to find his way through thick bushes and tree branches. As he journeyed deeper into the evil forest, he encountered different forest creatures trying to attack him. First was a forest monster that charged at him, but Nwagbara stood his ground and fought back. He subdued the monster and continued on his journey to find the sands of time. He later got to a point on his journey deep inside the evil forest, and he was faced with the challenge of crossing a river. The brave Nwagbara put himself together, stepped into the river and crossed it without much trouble. As he went deeper into the forest, the evil witches of the evil forest turned into strange-looking birds and attempted severally to attack Nwagbara from behind. When he sensed danger in the atmosphere, he brought out a bottle containing a milk-like substance and hypnotized the bird and captured it. He held the bird, looked straight into its eyes, and spoke to it as if he was speaking to a human. He seriously cautioned the bird, and he later let go of it and continued his journey. Few moments later, another bird came from behind as well, and Nwagbara did the same thing. He hypnotized and captured it as well. He also looked straight into its eyes, warned the bird, and finally released it as well. Each encounter he had tested his courage, ability, and skill, but Nwagbara remained in high spirit and he was full of determination. His journey into the evil forest took days and nights. Then one night, as he made camp to rest under a large old tree, Nwagbara felt the presence of a spirit as he was half asleep. To his surprise, it was his late father, who had been a great dibia during his time, that visited Nwagbara once again. Then Nwagbara whispered, "Father, I need your guidance. How do I find the sands of time?" His father spoke softly. "Follow the stars, my son. They will lead you to the ancient temple where the hourglass containing the sands of time is hidden. Remember, your heart must remain pure, and you must rely on your wisdom and courage." After that, his father disappeared. After hearing the voice of his late father, Nwagbara was filled with strength. Then he stood up and followed the stars patiently as advised by his father. After several days of travel, he reached the ruined building of an ancient temple covered by overgrown grasses and bushes, but Nwagbara knew that he was at the right place. As he entered the temple, Nwagbara felt a strange and negative energy around him. The air was thick with the presence of unknown spirits. He knew he would face trials to test his courage, wisdom, and purity, but he stood firm and determined to get the highly needed solution for his people. The first trial took place as Nwagbara walked through the long passage of the ruined old temple. As he walked, he heard whispers of unknown spirits and forces, but he ignored them and continued. But as he walked further, the voices grew louder and more disturbing, with the aim of breaking Nwagbara's high spirit. Suddenly, one of the voices spoke aloud and said, "Where do you think you are going? You call yourself a great seer but failed to save your mother. You should be ashamed of yourself. You are not worthy to be a seer that you claim. You are nothing but only an empty vessel. Go back now before I deal with you mercilessly." Nwagbara was a little bit discouraged by the words thrown at him by the evil voice he heard. Then he placed his hand over his ear to prevent hearing the evil voices, but when the evil voices increased, he quickly closed both ears. At a point, he took a deep breath and remembered his father's words. Then Nwagbara summoned up courage, responded aloud, "My heart is pure and I will not be moved by any amount of fear you put on me. I am Nwagbara, the Great Seer of Aimba, and my father was a well-known and respected dibia too, who did wonders during his own time. You cannot do me any harm." As Nwagbara spoke with authority, the evil voices disappeared and silence took over the atmosphere. Then Nwagbara continued moving in search of the sands of time. As he entered into one of the rooms in the temple, the tricky spirits tried to lead him astray from the right direction. They created unreal pathways that seemed easier in order to trap Nwagbara. But he knew that those pathways were not real by the help of his spiritual eyes, and he carefully avoided them. He continued his search on the right path, deeply relying on his spiritual eyes and guidance to walk through the manipulated room. Then Nwagbara found himself in the room of reflections, which was surrounded with spiritual mirrors all over the walls. The evil spirits set the mirrors to distract his state of mind. Each mirror was reflecting a different version of him. Some showed him as a failure, others showed him as a coward and unworthy seer, in a desperate move to discourage him from going any further. But Nwagbara brought out a white verse containing powerful charms. He took a deep breath, and he shouted aloud in confidence. "I am Nwagbara," he declared. I am the Great Seer of Aimba, and I will save my people no matter what. I command you, evil mirrors, to give way for me to pass." Suddenly all the mirrors shattered into pieces, and Nwagbara continued walking in the right direction. After so much battles and trials, Nwagbara finally found himself in the inner chamber of the temple, and lo and behold, there lies the sands of time in an hourglass on top of a small table. Nwagbara was relieved on sighting the sands of time at last. Just as he stretched his hand to reach for the hourglass, a huge dark figure appeared on the opposite wall, ready for battle. Nwagbara spoke and commanded the shadow to reveal what his mission was. It spoke that the sands of time belongs to it, and nobody dares remove it from the temple without a fight. Upon series of incantations by Nwagbara, it came to light that the dark figure was the angry spirit of the powerful witch who hid the sands of time for generations during her reign, and she was determined to prevent anyone from taking it away from the temple. As Nwagbara questioned her further, the witch's eyes glowed with anger, and her presence filled the room with a cold air. Then she spoke in anger. "Who dares to disturb my sanctuary?" The witch's voice sounded aloud. "You little rat, you think you can take the sands of time from me? Ha, ha, ha." She laughed. Nwagbara stood his ground, gripping his father's fortified staff tightly, and in high spirit he responded. "I am Nwagbara, the son of Abakaja, the great Dibia of Aimba village. I am a great seer of Aimba. I may be young, but I am guided by Igwe, the god of sky. I seek to return the sands of time to its rightful place and lift the curse of sudden aging from my people." The witch laughed again, a sound that scared Nwagbara. "You are a big fool. The sands of time belong to me. For generations nobody had ever succeeded in taking it away from me. What makes you think you can succeed where many had failed in the past? I will not let you take it away," the witch said. Then Nwagbara spoke. "You lie, you wicked, old witch. I will surely take it back where it belongs and bring an end to my people's suffering." Nwagbara made incantations, and his attire changed to black, and he pointed the staff towards the wall and commanded the witch to appear in person and face him. By the strength Nwagbara drew from his father's fortified staff, the witch finally appeared in person before him, and the battle started. They engaged in a fierce battle for the custody of the sands of time. It was indeed a great battle. The witch evoked dark powers and released spiritual bolts of negative energy at Nwagbara in an attempt to disarm him of his spiritual powers. But Nwagbara used his father's staff and the strength of his ancestors and the protective charms he carried to neutralize the attacks. As the battle became too tough, the witch became more desperate and furious. At that point Nwagbara knew he had to end it quickly. Then he summoned all his strength and channeled the bolts of energy through his staff. He was able to perform that through his pure heart, which was empowered by the love he had for his people and his desire to save them. With a final powerful incantation, Nwagbara released a spiritual force which the witch could not stand, that sent her running and flying away from Nwagbara, but he ran after her. As the force Nwagbara released in the atmosphere was too heavy for the witch to handle, she screamed and finally disappeared and was nowhere to be found. Once the witch was defeated, the atmosphere returned to normal, and Nwagbara carefully took the sands of time and made his way out of the temple. He began his journey back to Aimba village, holding the hourglass containing the sands of time in his hand. The journey was long and exhausting, but Nwagbara's determination never ceased. He continued his journey back home satisfied as he held the hourglass. He made camps at night when necessary and rested while on his way back to Aimba. When he finally arrived in the village, he met his people still aged and suffering, but he felt a bit relieved for having returned with the sands of time. When they saw him holding the hourglass, they followed him until he got to the community sacred well. As they watched, Nwagbara poured the sands of time into the community sacred well as he made some incantations. As the sands were dissolving gradually inside the well, suddenly rays of light from the sky covered the entire Aimba village. And within a short period of time, the villagers' aged and weak bodies began instant transformation. Their youth and vitality were gradually restored, and a sense of great relief took over the community. People were very happy as they cheered, thanking Nwagbara for saving them. Nwagbara was hailed as a hero, but he remained humble, knowing that his true strength came from his connection with his ancestors and his undying love for his people. The victory was celebrated with a huge festival. The village of Aimba was alive with music, dance, and celebration. The air was filled with the sound of African drums, and Nwagbara, dressed in an elegant traditional attire, joyfully danced to the drum beats. The happy people of Aimba finally got their grove back, and they celebrated without measure. At nightfall, the villagers gathered around a large bonfire, sharing stories of their strange illness and expressing gratitude for their restored youthful age. Nwagbara, who was among them, felt a deep sense of accomplishment, but he knew his journey was not yet over. The sands of time had been returned, but the responsibility of ensuring that it remained undisturbed was on his shoulders. The next day, Nwagbara gathered the villagers around the community well, and they filled up the community sacred well with mud soil. And by so doing, the sands of time would remain undisturbed till the end of time. Few days later, beautiful Amarachi, now vibrant and full of life again, met Nwagbara, and she said, "You did it, my friend Nwagbara. You saved us all." Nwagbara smiled and responded, "I couldn't have done it without the guidance of the spirits and the strength of our ancestors." Amarachi then held his hand and said, "We're lucky to have you, Nwagbara. You are indeed one in a million." While the sands of time was returned to its resting place, and the sacred well finally covered with mud soil, Nwagbara further protected it by offering powerful sacrifices and rituals at Ugwu Osisinmore, the sacred tree, to ensure that such affliction should never again come upon them. Few months later, Nwagbara heard that Amarachi's father was very sick. Amarachi was troubled and scared of losing her father. Nwagbara visited them. After giving Amarachi's father herbs that would heal him, he held worried Amarachi and reassured her that her father would be okay. Few months later, Amarachi and Nwagbara's friendship turned to love affair, and they both fell in love with each other. And finally, Nwagbara and Amarachi got married in a grand traditional marriage ceremony in Aimba. The marriage ceremony was so beautiful that people were surprised at how different and elegant Nwagbara looked with his beautiful bride Amarachi on that day. The villagers attended in great numbers to support them. Their union was later blessed with children, and they had a happy home. Nwagbara's first son was named Kausi Sochukwu, meaning "as it pleases God." Nwagbara started teaching Kausi the things of the spirit very early. Nwagbara understood that the key to preventing future calamities was education and preparation. Then, as he was getting older, he began to train new seers, sharing with them the wisdom he had gained on his journey of life. He taught them the importance of staying true to their hearts and the power of love and determination. Among the new trainees was Kausi, Nwagbara's first son, a bright and intelligent boy with a natural interest for the things of the gods and spirituality. During one of their sessions, Nwagbara told them in his own words that, to be a seer is to serve and protect. It requires courage, wisdom, and a pure heart. You must always remember that your strength comes from within and from your connection to our ancestors. Kausi stood up, looked up at Nwagbara with admiration, and asked, "Father, will we ever face such a challenge again?" Nwagbara placed reassuring hands on Kausi's shoulder and said, "Challenges will always come, but with the right knowledge and the right heart, we can overcome them. You must be vigilant and always respect the balance of nature and the spirit world." As they became older and weaker, Nwagbara would often sit with his wife Amarachi and reflect on his life and the journey that brought him where he was. He knew that his story would live on long after he was gone. As he became very old and too weak, Nwagbara knew that his time as Aimba's seer was coming to an end. By that time he had already trained his apprentices well, most especially his son Kausi, and he was confident that they would continue to protect and guide Aimba village. One day he called Kausi inside his chamber. He prayed and blessed Kausi and handed over the fortified seer's staff to him, and spiritually transferred the mantle of power and leadership to him. Then one night, as the moon and stars were up in the sky, Nwagbara sat beside Amarachi, his wife, chatting. Amarachi's presence was a comforting reminder of their shared history. "You have done so much for our people, my husband Nwagbara," Amarachi said softly. "Your legacy will live on in the hearts of our people." Nwagbara smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. He said, "It has been an honor to serve our people. I have faith that Kausi and the others will carry on the tradition and protect Aimba." As the moon was up and the stars covered the night sky, Nwagbara closed his eyes, feeling the presence of his ancestors around him, and he finally joined them peacefully. He knew that his story would be told for generations to come, a confirmation of the power of love, determination, and courage. Kausi and the other seers continued to protect the village, guided by the wisdom Nwagbara had imparted on them. As they grew older, they also trained new seers, ensuring that the knowledge and traditions of their ancestors were preserved. Aimba village prospered, and they celebrated their heritage and honored the memory of Nwagbara, the Great Seer who had saved them from total destruction. His story was a reminder that even in the most difficult times, hope, boldness, and determination could pave the way. And so, the tale of Nwagbara and the sands of time lived on, and it became a cherished part of Aimba's history, passed down from generation to generation. Thank you for watching. Please kindly subscribe, like and share. Remain blessed.